Hey everyone, welcome to Real People Real Estate, where we sit down with real people right here in Western Massachusetts doing awesome things in real estate. I am with a truly amazing person, Taylor Robbins, today. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to start off with putting you right on the spot with a fun question. So, if people go and they read your bio, they see how amazing and how many accomplishments you have, and not to put those to the side, but what's a cool, non-bio, just fun thing that you've been up to recently?
Oh boy. I want to say I live one of the coolest lives because I'm always doing something.
You are.
I'm currently playing indoor kickball, which I think is unique. And
indoor kickball?
Yeah.
Where do you do that?
Roots in Westfield.
Of course, yeah. There's always so much going on there. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm doing that alongside climbing on my spin class rides. So I've been very busy physically.
Do you know how many spin class rides you've done so far?
Yeah,
what's the number?
I'm hitting 120 and I'm set to hit 150 in the next month and a half.
My gosh.
So really exciting.
You need a high five for that. That is
Thanks.
awesome. That's huge.
So I've been busy with that.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like you're always on the go. You serve on so many different boards and committees and organizations. And how did that happen?
Yeah, I think when I look back on how my career started and where I spent my time, I truly understood the right people to surround myself with and use them as a resource. And over the course of the last 6-7 years, really leaned into those opportunities and not taking them for granted.
Yeah.
And by doing that, I've just, opened new avenues.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you ever heard of that activity, I guess, or kind of like a common workshop where people do your board of directors? Like who would sit on your board of directors?
Absolutely. I totally live by that.
Yeah.
If I didn't have my network and my team for my career and also for my clients as well, I use my team for everything. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be here today.
Do you think did you learn that from someone? Did you just come to the realization that, you want to surround yourself with the right people?
I think relationship building has always been a part of my fabric as a person, but I definitely learned to understand it better when I was working for a local franchisee who absolutely had a team of his own and showed that if you put the effort into your team, they reciprocate that effort and teach you a ton of lessons.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm grateful to him.
So was that the beginning of your career then?
Yeah.
And then how did you end up getting into banking?
I needed health insurance.
Okay.
That's a stolen line from one of my good friends. But I really did need health insurance, and I knew that I wanted to be in the finance industry.
Yeah.
I was studying econ over at UMass Amherst, so it was something that I knew I needed to align myself with. On the same turn, banking was kind of an easy route, so I started as just a summer teller at a local community bank and went from there.
Wow.
As you know, I'm a hustler, and I just kind of continued to grow in the field.
Yeah, well, and it's cool too because so now you're in, what's your official title?
I'm Vice President Business Relationship Bank.
Okay.
Actually, I have to review that. It's still new. Vice President Business Banking Relationship Manager at M&T Bank.
It's so fancy that it's a sentence.
I know.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Because that was a new change.
Yes.
And, how many years now have you had in banking?
8.
That's awesome.
8 years.
You really worked up the ladder pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So tell me, when you started in banking, you said you started off as a teller originally. And then what came after that?
I moved to a local credit union and did that very intentionally because I'm a people-centric person and I wanted to align myself and my career in that space. I worked as almost like a relationship banker on the ground level for people, consumers, not businesses, and kind of found my way to business banking from combining my experiences with that franchisee owner who I was doing accounting for and bookkeeping alongside my banking experience and put those two together. And then once I did that, I realized I really enjoyed business banking, but I really needed a mentor to teach me. Yeah. And that's where I found Jeff Simpson over at UMass 5 College Federal Credit Union. Who taught me everything that I know. I owe him everything, honestly.
Oh, that's so great. It's so important to have mentors. And just like you started off saying, it's surrounding yourself with the right people. And I find that so key with people who are successful. They find other successful people, they find mentors, and you're really able to elevate from there.
Yeah.
So speaking of these relationships, so, you end up surrounding yourself with entrepreneurs, right? People in business. Is that all different types of businesses, all different, startups to huge? I mean, what do you span?
Any business.
Everything?
I would love to talk to any business.
Okay.
I think the value in that, and I say my job is the most fun job that exists, is because I get to sit in front of a person who's really, really excited about something that they do and has become very successful in doing it. Every industry is different, and within that industry, every business owner operates different.
Yeah.
So I like to be the banking expert, and I love to listen to, that expert across the table that has made a life for themselves doing that business.
Yeah.
Or is seeking that life
Right.
and needs the expertise on their team.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Say I'm here, I'm a listener, and I'm thinking like, okay, I've got this business idea, which by the way, this is me at 3 a.m. every night when I can't sleep and I'm thinking of all these cool ideas. So, you've got this business idea and you want to start somewhere. I mean, how early would you bring in a business banking relationship manager or, whatever that would be?
Yeah, I think there's no wrong answer, but the total right answer is as soon as possible. However, it's not worth your time if you're not choosing the right people who are going to invest their energy into you. So choosing the right teammate from the very start in any context is important. So choosing the teammate and the banker from the early on allows us to just build a foundation of trust and allow for some consultative approaches to be made for that person specifically.
With that foundation, I mean, what would you say is the most important first piece of the puzzle for someone to have as far as even just types of accounts or what should they be considering? Who else should they be connecting with? Yeah,
I think the most important foundational element to when I meet new people, new businesses, is that foundational trust and rapport building. Money is such a sensitive topic, as we know, and I really can't be a true teammate if I don't know all of the facts and figures, and if I can't if I can't address your full financial picture, that's where I need to start. I need to understand who you are and how you manage both yourself and your business.
And what you might actually need.
Yeah.
So let's switch it to real estate, right? Because this is a real estate show. So on the commercial, there's kind of commercial and residential are right, the two types of properties and ownership avenues. So if somebody wants to buy a retail space for this new business idea that they have, what are you actually looking at? What are you assessing?
Yeah, any commercial lender will answer with the same phrase, and it depends is always the answer. And I think
I was like, oh, what's that phrase?
I think that's where the mystery in business banking and commercial is we always live in a gray area. And so for that reason, it always will depend. But when I guess from a grand scheme of things, we are looking at the full picture of the business, the collateral, everything, the person, and we're looking at it from a full purview. Mm-hmm. So engaging a banker from an early stage is very helpful in those situations so that we can structure and set up for success from the very beginning, knowing kind of the goals of the business. So if I had met them 3 years in advance of buying a retail space, how would I be their teammate in setting them up for success for that? Yeah. And then each property comes with its own layers,
quirks, and differences, and having that relationship. I'd imagine then you're seeing how they've built the business, if it's in existence already, what work they've been doing, and so when they go to ask for more money to fund, the next level of the project, you've got that history and that backing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool. It makes it a lot more relationship based and
a lot of trust. Yeah. To have a banker along for the ride, even if they're not doing your banking, that happens a lot actually, just on your team. To be there to understand where you're going next and how to set you up for that success, it's a very vulnerable position to be in, to share all of the operations, all of the financials with somebody else on how you run your business.
Yeah. What about the other side of the puzzle? What about people who are really well established, maybe larger businesses or have been in existence for longer, who maybe are looking to reassess where they do their banking? What are the most common, challenges or need for change or anything that you see on that end of the puzzle?
I think you would say the same thing. It's a rate environment.
It depends again.
Yeah. It depends on the rate environment. It depends on what's happening with the collateral. or the other institution. I think it depends. So many layers. There's not a good answer for that question.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, everybody, like you said, has their own thing going on, their own challenges, their own successes. Different businesses run differently, even if it's the same type of business. So,
or stage. If that business owner is looking for succession planning, and they're looking for that new piece of collateral for the next business owner, that's important conversation pieces, and teaming with the right business banker goes a long way for sure.
Absolutely. So a little bit of the lay of the land of commercial. What are you seeing? I mean, what are people doing right here in Western Massachusetts right now with commercial real estate? Anything trending?
Honestly, it's been really busy. I'm very impressed with how busy our activity is here in Western Mass. I would say there's some sort of newfound rejuvenation in the last 6 months. So just a lot more activity. I really appreciate the support that we have here in Western Mass for small businesses, and I see a lot of activity in small businesses.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
So maybe like
that seems to be trending.
Spaces that people are looking at, if they're looking at physical spaces.
Yeah.
If it's, well, I guess a small business could have a big operation. So you never know.
Yeah, I would say like the small business activity right now in Western Mass has been very impressive. I think that has a lot to do with our local foundations and our local groups, and the attention that we're receiving from the state for grant dollars. I think that all goes a long way. And
it's a lot of incubators, a lot of co-starting groups.
Yeah, and then that helps the bankers understand the lay of the land for the next 10 years. These are our players that are growing into our Western Mass, foundational business owner groups.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, that makes sense. What about with commercial real estate? Or do you tend to see businesses who own their buildings more so, or rent their buildings, or is it really a mix?
It's totally a mix. I'll say it depends on the industry as well. So riskier industries tend to not want to they tend to be renting rather than owning. However, sometimes capital is easier to gain when you have collateral. Again, it depends. But for that reason, you will find a lot of riskier industries renting.
Right. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And what about values? Have you noticed any major differences in values of commercial buildings at all recently?
I would say values have been relatively stable for the past 5 years. I'm not an economist, but I do think that has to do with
your bio is pretty long. You probably have economist hat somewhere in there, right?
I do think that because of the nature of what happened with the pandemic and how our world has changed so much, office space is, changing a ton. Retail space has changed a ton. So for that reason, I think it's relatively stable because the changes against the newfound changes are kind of coming together to create balance.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen a crazy jump in that. Some areas are different than others, but values seem to be stable.
And like you said, with so much focus in Western Massachusetts on business development, and I just think we're so fortunate with just the hospitals, the college systems, lots of resources that are right here. We tend to, knock on wood, be a little bit more stable in general in the market, but we'll see what everything else brings.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's really awesome. So speaking of, other groups and affiliations and networking groups and all that, you're part of a mastermind group.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Well,
we're in it together.
I know, we're in it together. So Pioneer Valley Masterminds Group is a mastermind group, not a networking group. I do want to say that out loud. Okay. The point of a masterminds group, in my opinion, is to promote the teaming of industries and people in our community for the benefit of ourselves, our professions, and our clients. So when I think about how PVM has helped me throughout the years, I think about the amount of times I've referred business to the same people that have gotten the job done very well each time.
Yeah.
And I can bring that intense relationship to the client in a way that's very meaningful and relaxed, but also very intentionally intense, you know, for the purpose of the benefit of the client.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've enjoyed PVM is for short.
Yeah. Any stories that stand out in your mind that you've been, introduced to?
Yeah.
Folks that have been really a great success or just a fun
this
outcome.
Is a plug for my good friend Chris Gallivan, who was recently on the board for the Greater Northampton Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
Chris has always been a really helpful mentor of mine, and he's very outspoken.
You have a lot of people.
Yeah, he has a lot of energy, and I think he's also a realist, and I have really appreciated that throughout my career. We sat on the board for the Greater Northampton Chamber of Commerce together for a year, and I learned a lot from him in asking the right questions and kind of the politics of it all, because that's everywhere. And it kind of led me down the path of being the next president of the GNCC.
Is that an official announcement?
It is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my goodness.
So I think I have a lot of people to thank, but Chris is one of them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Shout out on the show.
Yeah.
He is really great.
Yeah.
And that's huge. Congratulations to you. I mean, you have received recognition that you absolutely deserve. And, you know, there's not many people who work harder from anybody who I've seen. So that's awesome. And they're lucky to have you. So as far as, you know, usually I sit more on the residential side of the puzzle. I know, you know, probably just enough to get me in trouble about purchasing commercial real estate. So the most common question that I get from people is just the whole scenario of like, you know, what are some pros and cons? I mean, so what do you think is, if somebody's going to buy, say, a 2 or 4 unit building and they're going to rent it out, they're just getting started, and they're trying to figure out, like, do I own it myself? Do I own it in an LLC? What do I do? I know it depends, but what's your disclaimer? We're not accountants. We're not an attorney.
Yeah, I think that's a question that I'm glad we're talking about, because myself, I still don't really know the answer. I own real estate, and I think to myself, like, at what point do I transition my own things into a business, and when do I look for business lending over residential lending? And that's a question I grapple with personally. And as a professional in this space, I think going down to the full picture of the client is the most important element, of course. And of course, it depends. It's so
that's
gray.
That's the tagline, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the commercial lending tagline for all lenders, for sure.
Yeah.
But it is such a gray area. I would say, from my perspective, rule of thumb is if you can get residential lending, usually there's 4 properties that they'll allow you to do, most banks anyway, and under 4 units typically. If you can do residential lending to start, that's great. If that risk level is comfortable to you, it's really all about the picture. Business is really great for a lot of reasons. It's just a little bit, you know, more difficult to start. We do require higher down payments at times. There's obviously exceptions to that, but overarchingly, it's definitely easier to build a book as a person and then use that book to then convert to a business in some capacity.
Yeah, because I've heard you say leverage a few times and collateral and all that. And, you know, that what you just described makes sense. It's like, on the commercial side, the business side, you're really looking at a portfolio, right? You're looking at return on investment, growth potential maybe. Whereas on the residential side, it's just so much more about the individual's credit scores and income and all that. How much does the individual fall into the commercial side? I mean, do you review credit? Do you review personal income?
The individual is just as important as the business.
Okay.
And I would say from my experience, pairing those 2 strengths together and understanding where there's improvement is what we do as bankers, and try to structure the deal based on our knowledge of the positions of both the business and the person, and then the collateral and all the other economic factors is really what goes into a deal. Commercial lenders have like a rule of thumb. It's the 5 C's of credit. You learn that in like credit analyst school. Collateral, character, credit, conditions, so the economy, and one other one that's very off the top.
I'll go back to school to remember that.
I'll go back to credit school for that.
Well, but it goes back to like kind of the creative. Hey, that can be the 5th C is the creativity. I know it's not the official one, but around everything, because you're assessing so many different facets of the individual and the business.
Every layer.
Actually, I learned, because I didn't realize. I mean, I knew the individual mattered somewhat, but not necessarily with that much importance.
Yeah.
When you're working with folks, how important is it, or how often does housing come up from like their own personal housing side of the puzzle? I mean, when somebody is thinking about where to invest in having a business location, Do you maybe don't get into that conversation, but I mean, how crucial is housing supply on the residential side just for themselves, for employees? Have you noticed if there's been any impact there?
Yeah, I would say our jobs is putting together a mosaic. And if the mosaic is mostly green tiles and I need the full rainbow, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
So it is ideal to have a full picture with every color of the mosaic to then put the mosaic together and understand the best lending solutions. That doesn't mean that they need personal real estate by any means, but it definitely does add some diversity to the way that I can structure the deal.
Yeah, definitely. So if you had to tell somebody or suggest to somebody who was just getting started in business who to connect to, what would be your roster of like whatever it is, 5 or 10 people or organizations in the area that you think would be most crucial?
Yeah. I would say local real estate agents, other commercial lenders that you're maybe in competition with or across the nation. Find those folks and create a mastermind so that you have connections to speak to when you're trying to solve a mystery and build that mosaic.
Yeah.
Real estate agents are helpful just knowing the market. I would say any like community COI. So naturally, I've always been working for an institution that's in competition with you. But I've always grappled.
We call it collaboration.
But sure, if you look at it in that way. But either way, I've always grappled and like come together with you because you're a COI to me.
Right.
So I think it just depends on your location.
Yep.
Spend the time and the energy on asking around on who the best people in the community are to know and get to know them. And you're not going to be best friends with everybody, and you shouldn't be. But certainly understand the market and align yourself with the right people.
I love how you went to networking and people and actually putting that effort in with other leaders, because that's when I've asked other folks on the show similar things, there's nothing that anybody has done to just replace that, like belly to belly, shake hands, get to know people, and then you can kind of get your foot in the door or just have somebody to bounce ideas off of too. Yeah. Right? I mean,
I love to say out in the marketplace, I'm not a business banker. That's not my title. My title is relationship manager for a reason, and that's a really important key differentiator in the right bankers is if we're focusing on the relationship, we together will be very successful as a team. Yep. If we're just focusing on that transaction, we're probably not going to have as much success.
Absolutely right. You want to be a partner for life,
right?
In all different areas. So to wrap up a little bit here, anything we're going to switch gears? Any fun events, stuff going on in the community, organizations, businesses that you want to highlight?
Oh, such a loaded question.
And we know you have lots of favorites, so if you happen to name some right now, it doesn't mean they're your only favorite.
Yeah, I would say shameless plug over to the Greater Northampton Chamber. They have record numbers for their Arrive at Fives. I think that if you're a young professional or an established professional and you go into those meetings intentionally, not just to show up, but to really be there to meet people, shake hands, create some goals for yourself, you will not be disappointed in the results. Always ask and you shall receive with the chamber over there. What else am I thinking? Obviously would love to have anybody be a guest in our mastermind group. We're always looking for fun people to any industry. We don't discriminate. Anybody can come and just see what we're all about and learn more.
Zoom, so
it's on Zoom.
Simple.
Learn more about our community. I'm always out there, so it's so tough. But there's always some good stuff happening out here in Western Mass.
Kickball, apparently, and cycling, and whatever else you have going on, which is awesome. Good for you. Well, it was so fun to have you as a guest and learn a little bit more about the commercial side of everything. And thank you. I appreciate your time and being here.
Thanks again for the invite.
Absolutely. And thank you to our listeners and viewers for tuning in again to Real People Real Estate. We hope you were inspired by Taylor's story. And if you want to hop on as a guest, message us. We'd love to have you. We'll see you next time.